Բարի եկած սիրելի Ալեք եւ սիրելի Վահե. Good day everyone in Armenia and Artsakh, and good evening in the United States, and good afternoon everywhere else. Our two guests today are dear friends of ours. Many of us have known them, have interacted with them for many, many years. What can I say about these two gentlemen that will do justice in terms of an introduction? I'll say the following about Alek Baghdasaryan. A philanthropist is a word that doesn't do justice to Alek's service to the nation. From his engagement in Armenia and Artsakh, from his beloved hotel in Shushi, where I and many others have stayed over the years, to his continuing relentless pursuit of a better life for all Armenians in Artsakh. Alek has been the epitome and the personification of the link between diasporan engagement and Artsakh presence for us Armenians around the globe. Alek is the CEO and the founder of the Information Integration Group Incorporated, with presence in Los Angeles in the United States, with Yerevan in Armenia and Stepanakert in Artsakh. And I want everyone to hear very closely to what Alek has to say to Karnig and I this evening, along with Vahe. Vahe, on the other hand, Koshkerian, hails from all the way from Syria by birth, and has to say that he has a colorful journey is to put it mildly. Whether it is in Los Angeles or in Italy, in Tuscany and elsewhere, Vahe's true love is the homeland. In Armenia, he is the founder and distributor and the presenter of many wines that we have all enjoyed over the years. And I want to say that I am particularly taken, and I want to express my gratitude to Vahe at this moment for accepting the noble task of being an advisor to the President of the Republic of Artsakh in the efforts that are undergoing to rebuild the Republic of Artsakh, to reconnect with all of us who are far away and distraught because of the 44-day war. He has moved his entire existence to be devoted into the region. He is joining us from Yerevan today, and I want everyone to pay close attention to what Vahe has to share with us as well. Karnig?
Thank you, Garo. And Vajan, I think I want to start with you, if I may. I think both of you are quintessential role models, quite frankly, for a generation of diasporans. And as we embark on this new phase, if you will, in the life and challenges of the Republic of Artsakh, I couldn't think of two better people to have with us today to discuss just what those contours and parameters look like. I wanted to ask you, if you would, to give us, you've been appointed to this new position, to give us a little bit about not only the position, but perhaps more importantly, what was the impetus behind the position from the government, and what is it looking for in terms of that type of diasporan connection and the development projects that you feel are going to take highest priority in the upcoming months?
Great. I'll answer that. Thank you for the opportunity. This is a wonderful opportunity to talk and share some ideas. The position, if you will, came about because there are many organizations that are doing work or wanting to do either finance or boots on the ground operation in Artsakh for development for the most part. And on one hand, and on the other hand, we have all of the communities, villages, ministries, all with different needs. And my role is to be a catalyst and coordinate some of these efforts so that not too many people do similar projects in one village, and so kind of do prioritize what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, whether it's in what field it needs to be done and stuff. So there are certain priorities. It comes top down. So of course the government of Artsakh will set the tone as to what is the priority. whether it's security, whether it's education, it's housing, or economic development. So my job is to do just that. And I thought it is almost impossible without moving there, trying to do. So I technically haven't moved yet, but I'm looking for housing. So I'll be there mid-March. I'll be living in Artsakh, because it's very easy, you know, we have to have conversations, meetings. It's very easy. It's a small, I mean, Stepanakert is really small. We can walk to pretty much all of the ministries and we can coordinate. So that's the job kind of that was handed to me. And I'll be more than happy. No, I'm excited to do it. You know, I've been doing wine for the last 30 some years. And there comes a time where you have to make a decision. And this was the time for me to say, okay, let's get this, you know, because there's, I'll just phrase it this way, because of the, you know, losing is not a pretty thing, and we haven't lost. And for 30 years we were winners, and all of a sudden now we lost a war, we lost territory, and there is a sense of hopelessness in the air that we need to make sure that yes, we look at it, we move on, and we look at it as an opportunity to rebuild Artsakh the way it's supposed to be done. So this is, in a nutshell, you know, what's on the plate for us.
Go ahead, Karnig.
Yeah,
go ahead, Karnig. Ask Alec. Go ahead. Ask Alec, and then I'll come back with both gentlemen.
Okay, I was going to actually just follow up with Vahe real quickly in terms of the sectors or the areas that you find to be the most, you know, we've heard a lot about housing being one of the main considerations and main issues. Are there other areas that you see either interest from diasporan institutions, or that you see a particular need that diasporan institutions and individuals need to start thinking about?
Well, there are different sectors, some of them short-term, some middle-term, and some long-term kind of approach to what it is. The short-term is immediately, it is housing, because there's a lot of people who were displaced and they need to be housed before it's too late, let's say. You know, people who were in Shushi, Hadrut, all of the villages there, Kashatagh region. So there's a lot of people who are displaced and now are in Stepanakert. Unusually, there's traffic jams in Stepanakert. This never happened ever, that you have, especially school hours, that there's a traffic jam on a red light. But because now everybody's there, there are no apartments left, they're all rented. So housing is the first one that needs to be done, because otherwise you can't do the rest, you know. And then it will follow with, of course, food and shelter. That's kind of a little bit easier to do, but then it has to go to more long-term sustainable job creation. People need to work, because the government can afford so much to, let's say, give a subsidy or help financially. One is that, you know, government, both Artsakh and Armenia, are not in a position to just dole out money. One. Secondly, it's counterproductive, because you know, it's not the way things should be done. So middle term, that's the thing. Long term, it would be serious education and of the forming of the next generation, and do more strategic approaches to what needs to be done. You know, this is not let's see what happens, you know, let's throw it on the wall and see what sticks. It's more like going into the detail, nitty-gritty of the numbers, and say what kind of assets we have, what resources do we have, how we can you know, use those resources intelligently, so that we have a kind of a sustainable model.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. I know you want to ask a question to Alec.
I do very much.
I'm going to talk for a long time, so I'm waiting. Okay.
I wanted to ask you, Alec, John, you just returned a couple of weeks ago, actually, from Armenia and Artsakh, and I know that you, not only your past projects, but you have current projects on the ground there today. If you could give me just a little bit about what your impressions were, what areas you're focusing on, and why in Artsakh.
Great. Karnig Garo, I want to start by thanking you for this opportunity. And Vahejan, thank you so much for the position that you've taken. This means a lot to many, many people, both in Artsakh and in diaspora, to have a way to connect and get support in implementing their projects. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I was in Armenia, in Artsakh. I was there to do a few things as far as business to make sure that our interest in Stepanakert office or the Shushi, just look into those. Then I've been a board member at Armenian Educational Foundation for many, many years, and AEF has very many active projects in Artsakh. So I was able to go visit some of the schools that were damaged in villages and come back. I was there with a builder contractor that I took with me to basically assess some of the damages to the schools and see those. Then AEF also has an Artsakh center. We have a center for women where they have sewing machines and they basically, they art souvenir and so forth. And so, and there's a young fellow, Vachavartanyan, who's taken upon himself single-handedly to run the center to help bring villagers. He's in the Saroshen village himself. So he's providing some online education, so AEF is helping with funding, getting him a car, getting him finances for keeping the office, for running the office. So of course, we were also there to make sure some of our other projects, we founded the 4-year computer science degree program in Artsakh Պատկան Համասան Stepanakert University. We want to make sure that met with the president and education minister to make sure that those there's no everything is taken care of. There's a need to let us know. Similarly, we pay scholarships, so we want to make sure that if there is a need, both for Stepanakert universities as well as from two universities of Shushi that would close and transfer to Stepanakert, that they have the needed support to continue operating. In addition to that, I met with some other individuals. There was, I had the great fortune to meet with some folks that are in Artsakh from the Armenian Association of Social Workers that are working with Artsakh government, Mr. Artsakh Beglarian, to set up centers to provide social services to people affected by the war. And I was able to meet with them, to talk to them about their product, learn about their product. Amazing people, Gayane and Miriam, what they do and what taken on, and the energy and dedication, the devotion they have to this project. I came back to AEF with the project, and we were evaluating the project, the board, see how we can take part, how we can assist with both training of the immediate workforce to go to the different villages and help the folks to set up 40-year degree bachelor's and master's program in Mashtot and Stepanakert universities for teach this program, so the program could be sustained and they could have their own programs. Very similar to what we did with the Artsakh University for the computer science degree program, where after graduating the program, first group of students that we had sponsored, their scholarship program continued. So we hope that we could be the same vehicle to support and to provide, some direction, funding, whatever, to make sure that the program gets taken off the ground.
Thank you, Karnig. If I may now jump in. Vahe, I'm going to take you about 24 years back. I understand your first visit to Armenia was in 1997,
yes,
based on my reading up on you a little bit. And I also understand that about a year later, you tried to start your business, if you will, in 1998, but you were met with some adversity at the time, and legal mishaps and snafus kind of created some setbacks. But you have emphasized, you have been quoted as emphasizing that quitting is not an option. You accept the challenges for what they are and adapt to the situation. And you emphasize even more so that there are opportunities here meaning the homeland. And when I speak of the homeland, I speak of Artsakh and I speak of Armenia, of course. They go hand in hand for us in the diaspora. What can you tell us in terms of building trust, if you will, trust in the sense that the bridge between diaspora and Artsakh, for it to be strengthened, some diasporans who were all excited over the last several years because of what they viewed to be a rebirth of civil rights and fairness, and things were going to change. All of a sudden, they were faced with the 44-day war. And I have seen in the diaspora, those who were late bloomers, their interest has somewhat waned. It should not. I think all it requires is information, and the lack of information is making some people remain in the dark and not know what's going on. So to the extent that you are a firm believer and your history has shown that you don't shy away from challenges, we all understand there are challenges today. I'm specifically now speaking about Artsakh. I'll get into this Armenia versus Artsakh prioritizing for diasporans a bit later in our discussion. What can you say that can assure diasporans that all's not lost, all hope is not to be tossed aside, and that we must continue to strengthen Artsakh?
Thank you. That's a complex question because it involves different moving parts, honestly. I don't think we have an option. Honestly, I was in LA last week, and I had a couple of conversations, and there were serious questions from a couple of people there, whether it was worth continuing to invest in Artsakh, whether it made sense to, economic sense, let's put it that way, or resource allocation, right? We have this much Armenian resources that we can use. Should we put it in diaspora, in Armenia? And it was someone basically saying, is it worth continuing to support Artsakh? I don't think it's an option. I don't think that question we can ask, but I don't think it's a valid question, because we might as well question the existence of everything that we've done or the millennial history that we have, But we also have Armenian citizens there, people who live there. So it is how it's going to happen politically, so that their security, long-term security, is another issue. Now we have to look at it economically, because if we don't have an economy, the rest is mute, really. I mean, you can't do it. So the bigger issue that you touched upon is that there's a cultural difference between, let's say, Armenians from the Western world and Armenians in Armenia or Artsakh. And the issue has been with me and with others. I'm not sure whether Alec went through the same situation, is that we approach it too emotionally. We don't do it rationally. We just jump into it and, we get excited. We wake up in the morning, we see Ararat snow cap. We go to a restaurant and we hear Armenian music, somebody playing Garo, and they might well, someone will pick your pocket at the same time, because we just let go of it. We do things that we normally wouldn't do. Let's just take Georgia, let's say. Imagine I had to go and invest in a vineyard in Georgia. I don't care how much they feed me, how much music they play. At the end of the day, I'm going to look at the numbers, whether it's a good investment or a bad investment. When it comes to Armenia, we just don't have that. And I don't know whether we're ever going to have it. We are at heart we are romantics, We want to believe in the narrative of a strong nation. But you have to hang in there, because there's a learning curve you have to go through. It's not for the faint of heart, honestly. There are some business people who are very astute business people, and they look at it, be it in mining, energy generation, banking. You know, they don't get, you know, I mean, you don't get it. You don't wake up, let's say, and say, oh, I'm going to open a bank because it's such a sexy business. There is no such thing. But a lot of people do wake up and say, I want to make wine in Artsakh or Armenia. I want to buy land. I want to plant vineyards, because it's a different narrative. And when you get into that, then, you know, there are some issues you have to deal. So my biggest thing is that come with very solid thing. In the same, in my job in Artsakh now is, let's say, see what we can do and how we can do. So it has economically to grow that there's income, and we have to put romance on the side. What is the government giving? Are there tax benefits? Are there profit benefits? Are there holidays, tax holidays and stuff, which there are. All of these things are packaged things. So if I talk to an investor, let's put humanitarian efforts on the side for the time being, because those are short-term stopgap efforts. But long-term, I have to talk an investor into coming to Artsakh. He's going to ask me a lot of questions, from infrastructure, road, to Russians, to borders, to travel, roads, airports, everything. And somehow we have to come out of it saying, you should do this, or you should, for the following reasons. And it's a tall order for most. So Armenians in general will have a bigger appetite for risk, and they should, because with that risk comes also the benefit of claiming a homeland, that you participated, that you were part of the narrative of rebuilding it, you know, and that comes at a price. It doesn't come by someone sitting somewhere far away and waving a flag. It just doesn't work that way.
Vahe, if I may ask you, you mentioned Russians. What can you tell us, if any information? If you can, it'd be great. If not, that's okay. The difficulties of people traveling from Yerevan to Stepanakert, because we hear that it's not as fluid as it was before the war, that there needs to be approval process and whatnot. I understand, I assume, well, you've been to Artsakh, you know, you're going back and forth. How does that work? I mean, is it because
it's quite simple. It's not that complicated. Simple is until we get to the Armenian border, you don't see. If you see Russians, they're up on the hills or somewhere. You don't see them. You don't interact with them. Once we enter the border, then yes, all of the border posts for the most part are Russian, all the way until you leave Shushi. Once you leave the Shushi territory, that's it. You don't see Russians again. Maybe in Stepanakert you might see a Russian truck or something. But in general, so probably you go through 7 posts Russian. The first earlier, a couple of months back, every post they check the passport. Now only 3 of them do, I think. Most of them wave you through, but Shushi is one. When you enter Armenia is one. Around Lachin is another one where they check the passport. So technically, if you are an Armenian citizen with an Armenian passport, they cannot say no. There is no such thing. They have to look at it. They ask you a question, perhaps open the luggage to see whether there's guns or something or whatever, and then you run your way. For foreigners, it's a little bit more tricky. It's not impossible, it's tricky. With foreigners with Armenian ethnic background is much easier than a foreign journalist, let's put it that way. So you have to apply in Yerevan. There's the representative office of the Republic of Artsakh, and then within 3 days, your name is submitted, and then somehow there's a background check to make sure, I guess for the sake of security, and then you get a clearance, and then you can travel to Artsakh, and then your name will be at the border post, so they will let you through. Or technically, that you get a visa, you know. Now, there is the thing. It's safe. The security-wise, it's safe. You do pass. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You do pass a few places where you see Azeri flags prominently somewhere on a hill. Shushi is, you come close to around maybe 50 feet, maybe even less, where you do eye-to-eye contact with them. You know, they're right there standing. One of them even has a Turkish flag. You know, the entrance to Shushi has both Azeri and Turkish flag. These are all weird stuff for us because we're not used to it. It's a unusual feeling. Then you settle in and you get used to it. But it's not something. It's a much smaller territory now. So wherever you go, let's say I have a nursery there, land. It's the army is standing right in front of the gate. So it's real. It's up close and real. And you know, so but it is safe. There is no doubt that it's going to be safe. Tourism, we might as well scratch that one. It's not going to happen. I mean, it really is too difficult, too complicated for. I mean, yeah, diehard Armenians will come, but overall, it's going to be not yet. Let's put it that way. Not just yet.
And this appears to be a situation that is for now permanent in terms of the transportation.
Yes. For the next 5 years, this is going to be common. They're mostly Russian kids, 20-year-old, 19-year-old, blonde. You know, some of them have been instructed to speak, so they speak Armenian. Oh yeah, the border guard. You know, they're doing their job. End of story. You know, they don't get into politics. They're not supposed to get into the detail of what you have in your car, as long as there's no gun. But that's their job. That's why they, by definition, they're peacekeepers, and they need to make sure that it's security. For a lot of people, seeing them hunkered in with fortifications. I mean, it's not like one guy with a Kalashnikov. A lot of them have serious communication satellites and stuff like that. So it's like they're hunkered down. Let's put there's construction, there's concrete being poured. So they're here for a while. Nobody's going anywhere for a while. So for a lot of people, that's security. You know, you look at it, and at the end of the day, they feel comfortable. They know how to speak the language. They joke with the guards on the way, you know, like local Armenians. I don't speak Russian. So, you know, all I say is I don't speak Russian. We laugh a little bit, end of story. They let me through. But a lot of times they do talk. So they feel very comfortable with them. Yeah. So.
I was going to ask Alec a question, but Karnig, do you have a desire to interject? If you do,
No, go ahead, and then I'll follow up with you.
Okay, Alec, you know, you have been for years and years involved in the development of Artsakh. You know, you've collaborated with the government. I recall your meetings with the former president of Artsakh. And to me, you've always been a symbol of Shushi, because one of the first places that I've stayed in Shushi in my early travels was at your hotel, and you were a very gracious host. Shushi is very well known for its art and the museum and all that has been left behind. In fact, I recall your hotel itself had incredible, beautiful crafts, art, that was on display there. What can you tell us about the state of affairs? I understand, you know, they're in the hands of those who are more comfortable in destroying art than making art. What can you tell us with what's going on in those areas with your engagements in the past?
So a few things. We started the hotel project. It was supposed to be a touristic project that included a hotel, Shuga, historic bath, historic post office, and a courtyard area that had 2 blocks. The project was, that area was initially slotted by Shushi Rebirth Veratanun committee, that this would be where we will develop it. We came in with a bunch of partners, and everybody knows me, but we have 3 other partners, wonderful people, Shivchila Papayan, Mary Kanyan, Haikush Kohler, that we've been partners, great partnership. So we decided to take on the project and build a hotel in Shushi, worthy of people that were visiting Shushi, 11-story hotel, the nice accommodations and everything. So we did that, and then you're right, we did have a lot of beautiful artwork, but there was also a lot of artwork in the National Gallery that is left behind, in the Gold Coin Museum, the Carpet Gallery. Unfortunately, this thing happened in such a short period of time that a lot of people had to leave things behind. I want to touch on a couple of things that Vahe mentioned, if I may just add my opinion. I've been going to Armenia since 1998, and we started a software development office back then where there just weren't that many folks in the IT industry. And now if you talk to somebody about IT in Armenia, everybody says, great, you know, IT, Armenia is the place to go. But back then it wasn't. We went there, we built it, and it took years for it to get to where it is. And tourism was the same thing. When, you know, hotels, there weren't as many nice hotels in Yerevan and other places that we see now. So true, Vahe is 100% right. There are difficulties of doing it. It takes about 5 to 7 days to get the visa to go to Artsakh. But my thinking is that when I sit back and think about what can we do in Artsakh, of course, cultural programs come to mind. We used to do Shushi Art Festival, and Harry used to do take part, but Shushi Poetry Festival. And I think it's important to make sure that we double down. Armenians around the world will double down and say, even though it takes 7 days to get the visa, we're going to get the visa. We're going to go see this beautiful, clean Stepanakert city. We're going to see Dandasar, and on and on. And I think that's something that at this time perhaps is more important than before, to provide support for the people of Artsakh that, yes, we're here with you, we'll support their different projects. Now, as far as business projects, I would know a lot more about agriculture, IT. There are projects that could be done. I have a software development office. We hire programmers. The kids are very smart. They learn and do work. So if we can come up with series of projects, I know agriculture, we used to have thousands of hectares of land to plant and so forth. Now maybe in the hundreds, but we have to wait till, you know, time goes by and the houses are built in Hadrud and the 40,000 people are settled and see what we can do. But I think we need to be in the mindset of we need to double down. We need to do this, and as much as it's difficult, it is our duty. And I want to go back, and the same thing with and why it's 100% right. Every business decision needs to be tied to dollars and cents for it to be sustainable. But sometimes, you know, you look at it and say, the fact that I'm helping Artsakh, the fact that I'm helping Armenia, and the fact that I'll get that personal satisfaction from the outcome that I know I'm helping my fellow Armenians, you know, should play. I mean, same thing with our software office in Yerevan. If you go to India or Indonesia or Malaysia, we get so much better programmer rates and the tax benefits and this and that. But I always say, you know, the day hasn't come that I close my Yerevan office and go to Malaysia, you know, Indonesia. So I urge people to really consider doing things, because the benefits are for people as well as for your own self-satisfaction. And people are good. People work very hard when you work with them. I mean, whether it was in our hotel, in Shushi, or offices, people are very loyal. People work with you, work very hard to make sure that your, you know, investments are protected.
You know, I'm happy you brought that up, Alekjan, because I do think that there's such a value in that interpersonal connections that we are making and continue to make. There was a huge upswell during the war where people were interconnected with people in Artsakh, in Armenia, 24/7 in some cases. And I think that there's some real value to sustaining that, because while I agree in terms of the, you know, our approach sometimes is overly romantic, we also can't underestimate the actual importance, and from a historical standpoint, that Artsakh plays right now in our existing Armenian reality. You know, this is, and no pun intended given the program, but it is the front lines of really our epic story, you know, and we have a role to play in that story. And, you know, the examples that you two set surely pave the way of a couple of things, right? Is this resilience, which is not only resilience that mimics the resilience of the people of Artsakh. And Vahe, you so rightly mentioned the fact that, you know, there are individuals, there are families. It's not just about development for development's sake or business development for business development's sake, but there are lives to be improved, individual futures to think about, and when you said, Alekjan, about doubling down, I think that this is where, champions are made, really, is in this period. Do we double down? Can we double down, triple down, and maintain those connections and develop those connections? The world, even with COVID, has become so much more interconnected than we ever thought possible. And even the difficulty of physically traveling, maybe you wouldn't be able to go there as frequently as one might want to be able to go there. But those relationships and not only just in terms of, business, but also, like you were saying, the cultural, the ability to link, to bridge the cultural, in the cultural arena is extremely important in this moment where there's massive change. And I think it's very important in every possible way that we can to try to maintain that sort of the cultural importance and the historical importance of, we are living in a historical moment. We can close our eyes and pretend we're not, but we literally are living in a much more historical moment as of September 27th than we were September 27th of last year. And I think that's while that could quickly fade into, let's say, romanticism, there needs to be an appreciation of the fact that our stand with Artsakh today couldn't be more critical. And I guess often I'm the one that's asking questions here, but what are your thoughts on that, Alekjan? I know that you wanted to say something.
I think even like, I remember summer of 2019, it was the opening of Pan-Armenian Games. It was in Stepanakert. I still remember that evening. I still remember that night, that energy, those people in the Marzavan in Stepanakert. I think it's important that, more important now than all Armenian organizations, all the different of such events, to make sure that Stepanakert is part of their program. And if they have to go to that 7-day period, say, kids, we're going to take you to the 7-day period and we will take you to Stepanakert, because it's both good for the kids. I still get Facebook messages from the kids that came to Shushi Poetry Festival for the 8 years, talking about their experiences in Shushi and how they loved it and how wonderful it was. I think we need to make sure we do the same thing, and then that these people come to Stepanakert, go to Gandasar, maybe we make the Gandasar be the focal point that we take the kids to, and then we do the same jump bars and everything. So the same thing continues.
I have an idea, and I'll turn it into a question. So I was planning on going to Armenia, and I wrote up an itinerary where I was going to arrive on day 1, spend day 2 in Yerevan, and day 3 go to Syunik, spend the night there, and then day 4 go to Stepanakert. But the way I'm hearing you, gentlemen, that's not really possible. It's not like I can, in the past, I would get to Yerevan and sometimes the very next day, get in a car and drive to Artsakh. That's not possible right now. And if that's not possible, and one needs to get to Yerevan to apply in Yerevan to be given a visa to go to Artsakh, if you will.
It may be that you can apply for that visa from here. So, I mean, I could talk to the gal. There's a wonderful gal, I'm trying to remember her name, and full of energy, that met with me at the Artsakh embassy, and it's on near Komitas, Arab area. And I'm sure they can accommodate. I'm assuming they can.
Azadui, Simonia.
Exactly, Azadui, exactly. So you can fill out the paperwork from here.
We check on it. We can probably set up a system to do electronically.
I was just going to say, because
if that system doesn't exist, my office would develop it at no charge. So I think we owe it to people.
It seems to me, with the permanent representative, who I like to refer to as Ambassador Robert Avetisian in Washington, D.C., there ought to be a mechanism for U.S. American Armenians or Armenian Americans, however they want to classify themselves, to be able to apply ahead of time so that when they get to Yerevan, they get to go to Artsakh, especially if the trip is short and you only plan on staying in the homeland, Artsakh, Armenia combined, 8 or 9 days. Well, it kind of makes it hard, not to be able to plan. So it's something
that I will let you know. I will check.
Yeah, I was going to say, as the advisor to the Artsakh government, Vahe, now that's my first ask.
Actually, yeah, we do discuss these issues even in meetings and stuff, because it's a very important thing. If I may just jump in very quickly, we were talking about culture, and it is very, very important that life goes back to normal. So one of the things that I'm now working on is to, we used to have a Artsakh wine festival every year, first week in October in Togh. Togh became by default, because there was Qatar winery there and whatnot, became the wine village of sorts, and it is beautiful background there. So the wine festival, I think we did 4 I think. And now we don't have Togh, unfortunately. It's behind enemy lines. So I said, regardless, we're going to organize, we're going to do it in Stepanakert this year, and then following years we'll move it around to Marduni, Mardagert, so that, you know, there's a movement of it. But this year I'm planning on doing it in September, and while we're at it, I thought we'd do a summer festival. That way we have the Armenian Philharmonic come and play, we'll set up a stage, we'll have dance and whatnot. So it'll be like a 10-day, not every day, but perhaps every other day, some performance happening, sound system and all, so that people in Stepanakert can see some beauty, if you will, among the darkness and ruins and sadness, something that's appropriate, because we still, a lot of people are mourning. It's like, you know, we just can't, but then life has to go on. So this would be something we look forward to, and perhaps that will bring some from Armenia to come to Artsakh for the festival itself. You know, our local Armenians, let's say, which can come. There's a lot of hotels, they're all empty now, the very good rates, and so there could be, you know, some life is back to normal in Yerevan. I would tell you, restaurants are packed as if there's no tomorrow. We don't have COVID. It's an amazing scene, honestly. New restaurants opening, you know, nonstop, and they're pretty much, a lot of them are full, whether it's Monday night or Tuesday night. I'm saying this because Stepanakert will follow in a couple of months. It's even there also, people are going out and whatnot. I mean, life it will come back to normal. So anything that's cultural, it's an integral part of what we should do on a daily basis. We can't just work. We need to also see joy and beauty around us. So.
And Vahe, I wanted to follow up on that, and you know, perhaps in your position, as well as all the work that you've done over the years, what if you were to paint a picture of what, you know, what a best case scenario would look like in a couple of years in Stepanakert, in Artsakh today? You know, what are the shadings of that? What are the colors of that? What, you know, I think one of the issues that I'm concerned about, and I think many are, is, you know, the youth, the education and opportunities to stay in Artsakh, right? I mean, I think that a lot of our interest in Artsakh is so that we keep Artsakh inhabited by its indigenous inhabitants. I mean, I think that's one of the main, I would say, you know, forces behind our involvement. It's not just about land, it's about people. What do you see as some of those kind of critical undertakings that would build community, rebuild community, rebuild, you know, so that, and what would that future look like under the present circumstances, which are very different than they were just, you know, a few months ago?
Yeah. Here's how I see it. It's a very valid question, not only for Artsakh, for Armenia proper. In the villages of Armenia, it's the same, where people migrate to cities because there is nothing to do in the village idea. So basically, we have to bring the world there. So just because you live in a village near Marduni, it doesn't mean that all you can do is make cheese. Let's put it that way, you know. So we have to change that mindset and then bring the world there. And this is happening through, at least now in the planning stages, there are armad labs being built in villages, STEM education being done there, so that programmers can stay, let's say, in villages. TUMO is also working. So we know what the problem, because if we don't have borders, strong borders, it's really hard to keep. Another thing that we will do now, it's a strategic thing, is to plant vineyards, or increase the vineyards, and that's value-added agriculture. A bottle of wine is not just a kilo of grapes; it is more a kilo of grapes plus a history, culture, belonging, rooted product and stuff. So we can get more per kilo of grape by making wine, and it keeps people there. And so there are a lot of these kind of things that we need to look at and make sure that the villages are connected and more, I shouldn't say modernized, but also, for example, now we're working on a project to do sewing stations, let's say in Marduni or a village in Pertashen, to have maybe 50 like a production unit for doing either clothing or whatever it is that we need to do, so that people don't all come to Stepanakert, or we bust them from the villages, but then they go back to their villages, and another thing I'm very keen on doing is doing the concept of a cooperative. That way we have a cooperative that also handles, they learn how to deal with their own problems of education and housing and whatnot, and rather than a more classical approach of a businessman putting a business. And so we there are a few things that we're working on, but village life needs to improve. For the most part, there isn't much to do in the villages. They all watch TV. That's the way it is. But we're going to open an impact hub in Stepanakert. We could open satellite ones, just because Impact Hub gives the youth somewhere to go and see that there's another world out there. They can be connected. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff. Internet access is a must. There's lots of moving parts, but yes, absolutely, we need to make sure that the villages are very strong and people are excited to stay there. Rather than they can't wait to go to Moscow or something. If that happens, then it really is hard to maintain something. It's all of 100,000 people, and look at the border we have. It's an immense border for 100,000 people to keep, So there's a lot of work to be done.
Well, Vahe, you talked about the villages, but what about all the villages that have been lost and the villagers who are now, who were homeless? And I dare say, I have some understanding of the fact that there are many who still are living in hotels in Stepanakert, folks from Shushi and other villages that are no longer occupied by Armenians, if you will. What efforts are underway, and how can we engage the diaspora, or we, the diaspora, engage with Artsakh, and I'd like your thoughts on that as well as yours, Alec, because I have a feeling that you're trying hard in those respects as well. Any ideas?
There are still quite a bit of displaced people still living in Armenia, by the way. In Zargatsor, there are a few hotels that are full, so they all need to go back. So the whole idea now is that the government is looking at which villages to enlarge rather than build a new village. It's because of infrastructure is easier. You already have one, so you just do plots of land and build. So there's a lot of organizations working. Tufenkian, AGVU. So even the Russian government has building. By the way, they allocated this much money because I think it's to Russia's strategic interest that Artsakh is populated, not depopulated, but contrary to what everyone thinks. They think, oh, wow, Russia will give passports so that all Armenians leave to Moscow. On the contrary, it doesn't serve Russia's interest to have an empty Artsakh. You know, they want people to stay there. So they are building homes. So enlarging existing villages is the way that will work, I think. You know, it's easier said than done because there's a lot, then the government, you know, there's legislation has to pass and whatnot, but it is actively being worked on, and including panel manufacturing operations, so that, you know, the units are built reasonably under reasonable cost and fast. So because we don't have the luxury of time to wait, you know, many years, just like after the earthquake it happened in Gyumri, you know. So that's the way, the direction that the government is going. What can the diaspora do? We will have to find a way that we give an opportunity to diaspora, perhaps communities, to find a way to adopt not a family but adopt a village, adopt a school, so that there is an ownership, if you will. Because another thing I noticed that now it's coming to light is people want to know what they gave to. They just don't want to do, let's say, the Himnatra. For some reason, they think it's no transparency. They think it's not, which is not the case. But let's say we give them point that, you know, they feel like they gave money, but there's no transparency. What happened to the money? You know, because that's the nature of the beast. That's how it was in the old days. So we always suspect that the money is being misused, misappropriated, and whatnot. So they want to do. And part of what we are doing is trying to match this, so that if you want to rebuild a school, a certain community or a foundation, let's say the Armenian Education Foundation can do 5 schools. Now we have another program to do extended school day in Artsakh, let's say. This afternoon we will discuss it, providing meals and stuff. So that is a wonderful thing where there's a budget, and then we can have either donors, one donor or some, you know, or a group of donors owning the project and following it through. And ask for accountability. You know, transparency is very important things. Now we have to do things a little bit differently, and the diaspora needs to be involved. Sometimes even coming boots on the ground, because it's a wonderful thing to be connected. And actually, the outpouring of support during the war was huge in Europe and in the US, but people closing freeways and stuff. It means even though they do live in the diaspora in other countries, their heart is still in Armenia, because that's the only thing we have left. If we lose this, then we lose everything. We lose our music, our culture, our art, and, you know, as if everything was for nothing. You know, we came, we saw, and then we lost. And we shouldn't be one of those. We shouldn't be the Assyrians, let's say, that we have, you know, marginal people that we came and we lived in these lands, and there used to be Armenians kind of thing. We need to fight for it. And to build a model nation, you have to goddamn fight for it. You know, it's just, if you want to own the narrative, you have to be part of it. So being involved is very, very important. Find somewhere, don't wait that people ask you to come and be involved. Just be involved. There's so many things, nowadays, especially with social media, it's really easy to find something that resonates with you, whether it's tech, whether it's art, whether it's music, whether it's anything. There's something somewhere, somebody is doing a ballet that you can contribute, outfits, clothing, design, whatever it is, you know. So just don't wait, just get involved.
Karnig, if I may.
Yeah.
Basically, I think why is 100% right. The focus right now in Artsakh is the building of the houses for the 40,000 people that are in need of house. I think the goal is to build that in the next year or two, and after that, start focusing on some of the other areas, economic development and so forth. And all the suggestions with adoptive village, adoptive family, and there's an organization of focus on children are doing some of that. I think we should build on those. And again, Vahe's role is very, very important in being a vehicle, because when it comes to investments in Armenia or Artsakh, for years I've headed the Armenian American Business Council or International Global Trade Network, which was a network of Chamber of Commerces worldwide. And one of the biggest challenges we've had was to have a support system. So when you want to go somewhere, to get that assistance, that somebody returns your call if you have a question, instead of you spending days and days researching, somebody with some authority, somebody that has done it before can come back and tell you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, these are the steps that you go through. I think it's wonderful. We have Vahe. I think people need to look for that support, and with the support provided, Vahe is right. I think many people would look for both cultural, educational, and hopefully once we identify some business industry segments that you could come up with some success stories with some business plans that people would start doing that in Artsakh as well.
And I think really, there's another aspect to all of this that is really important. I know we're coming up on our hour here, but I want to just as a kind of a closing point. I think the war showed us the value in coordination, that we need coordination, that we need sophisticated coordination. And I think that the actions being taken in Stepanakert now, there are always trailblazers that, whether it's you and Alec, whether it's you, there are always trailblazers that can do it regardless of the consequence, regardless of the environment. But I think one thing that we realized during the war is that many people want to assist, and many people, as you said, Vahe, want to be involved. And we realized really the value of centrality and coordination of those efforts. And I think that one of the most important things is to be able to outlay that, so that we don't have repetition of efforts, and that we have some coordination, and that the impact is felt more efficiently and more directly, and people that are contributing feel like they are part of something, whether it's boots on the ground or whether it's through social media efforts or work in a remote environment, in a remote setting, or whatever it is, that they are part of the Artsakh stand, if you will, because that's really where we are at this point, is this stand. And it might be the stand of our lifetime, and it might be the stand of our generation, but I really feel that as Alec, you said, we need to double down, and we need to double down in such a significant way, so that we can really appreciate and become involved in a really historic moment in really our existence, as Vahe so aptly said. This is, we've heard it from the beginning of the war. This is an existential moment, and we can't be asleep during an existential moment, and our hearts have to remain there, and our boots have to be there when we can, and our work always has to have some sort of connection and try to work and coordinate with that. And I'll leave the two of you for any last thoughts. If not, I'll turn it over to Garo for his closing remarks.
I would like to add one small thing, if I can. Lately, I've been hearing people saying, organizations or even people, that, oh, we're not going to help because we don't believe in this government, whether it's Artsakh government, Armenian government. And I don't think there's anything even worse than thinking that way, because governments come and go, politicians come and go, but Armenia stays, Artsakh stays. So whatever we're doing is we're investing. We're not investing. You can't spite because this government, we're not going to have, this is real. I'm not just throwing it out there. Mm-hmm. Serious organizations, oh, we're not going to help because we don't believe in this government. Really, like, you want to fail, you want it to fail. It has nothing to do with the government, and it is all has to do is the moment. It's a very critical moment for us. We can't overemphasize. We don't have to be overly dramatic about it, but you know, you have a bunch of people go, you know, 20,000 people emigrate to Russia. It makes it even worse, the existing problem. And then it is the point of no return could come, you know, so we have to be careful that we don't get it. We have to keep our hope high. We have to do projects so that people see and say, the most we can get is, oh, this stuff happening, let's wait one more round. Not this summer, maybe next summer, if nothing changes, then it means we're winning. We're closing that gap of people trying to say it's hopeless, I'm leaving. You know, and once they go, it's really hard to bring them back. It's really hard for people to come back. And it's a one-way thing usually. So we want to make sure that they don't even consider it. So it has to be so much fun, so much beautiful. The villages have to be better. Stepanakert has to be bubbly, high energy, tech, manufacturing, all of those have to be there for people to say, really, why should I go? You know, Stepanakert was, before the war, was growing at around 7% annual growth. You know, GDP was the same as Armenia. Mm-hmm. It's not any less than Georgia or Azerbaijan, for that matter, with all its gas and petroleum. So it means it was humming, it was hopping. It was a clean, wonderful city. People loved it, you know. So we just have to hang in there and bring it back. It will come back. You know, there are setbacks, yes, but let's not, you know, lose hope.
Alec, I'm going to call you from now on, double down Alec. So if you have final words, please.
Just very quickly, sure. Very quickly, and as Vibe pointed out, we are here to doing work for the people of Armenia and Artsakh. I always say we started doing work for the government of Armenia, hosting delegations and so forth, even during the past governments, and we continue to doing. And I've always said, you know, what we do is not tied to this government, the other government. We do this for the people of Artsakh and Armenia, and we'll continue.
You took my closing remarks away. I was going to say that I have a couple of things to say about each of you. Alec, you have been supportive and supporting the homeland, Artsakh and Armenia, through different administrations. And that is the true mark of a philanthropist. That is the true mark of a patriot. And I, for one, want to thank you on the record. And Vahe, the same not only goes for you. What you did a few minutes ago is you brought up the issue of government and some people talking about they will not support this government or versus the other government. And I had been thinking this entire hour, isn't it pleasant that we are talking with two gentlemen about things that matter for the everyday life of an Armenian in Armenia, an Armenian in Artsakh. And we are not once talking about the government, the opposition, the prime minister should resign. He is a traitor. He's not a traitor. You're good. You're bad. I'm better. I'm worthless. You're not worthwhile. I have never seen such vitriol. And to see it after a 44-day war that decimated the spirits of so many Artsakh Armenians, that took away an entire generation of Armenians from us, never to be replaced. I wonder what it is to be an Artsakh in Artsakh today and to look at Yerevan and see what goes on every day, a group demonstrating against another group, a group demanding resignation, a group saying, no, I'm not going to resign. You know, I don't know, and I don't care. What I do care about is people like the two of you and others like you doing the work on a daily basis without paying attention to the static. Because 4 months have gone by since the war. 4 full months have gone by. And so many things that could have been accomplished are not being accomplished because we have political parties that are engaged with one another. When you then look at the surveys that just came out the last 24 hours, 99% of the country doesn't even give a darn about which political party is doing what or which political party stays or comes to power. Power to the Armenian people, power to the people of Artsakh, power to the homeland and the borders and the villages at the border to be secure and the economy to be strengthened and lives to be made better. And none more than the two of you are doing all of that. And you know what? I will not forget to say this. Vahe, I heard it's your birthday. And whether it was yesterday or today, you know, mine was a week ago or so. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Vahe.
Thank you. Thank you.
And may we have a new birth of an Armenian nation with a healthy attitude, healthy feelings, and a direct path to not just look at Mount Ararat, but to bring the mountaintop to the square of Yerevan. As Vahe has said, Mount Ararat, the dream of seeing Mount Ararat every day. That's how diaspora and Armenians come to Armenia. But Armenia is more than that. It is a real country that has some real problems. And Artsakh is more than Dadik and Babik. It's a real country. It was a real functioning country before the war. Bless both of you. I've spoken more than I should have. Have a pleasant day and hope to see you in person. Thank you.
Thank you, Karnig Jan. Thank you, Garo.
Thank you. Thank you.
so much.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.